Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Saturday. Today is November 9th, 2024, and it is the 400. It's been 400 days since October 7th of last year, 400 days since the attacks by Hamas, 400 days of near starvation throughout the entire Gaza Strip, 400 days of bombardment, 400 days of violence, 400 days of war. Devastation, ethnic cleansing. Hostage families are marking 400 days of their loved ones being in captivity. It's not known how many hostages might still be alive in Gaza, but they are, quote, marking an unimaginable 400 days during which hostages' families have been crying out from every possible platform to bring their loved ones homes from Hamas's tunnels. There's a rally in Tel Aviv tonight, says the Hostage Families Forum in a statement. Other news on this 400th day, Qatar has withdrawn as a mediator, saying that both Israel and Hamas have not come to the table. Neither party is willing to make compromises that would allow for a ceasefire deal to be reached. And so Qatar informed them today that it is stopping in its efforts to mediate between the two sides. Reports also indicated this morning still in Amman in Jordan, that Qatar was considering asking Hamas officials to leave the country, reportedly at the request of the United States. This was following calls from some U.S. senators urging Qatar to take a stronger stance, particularly concerning the release of hostages. U.S. lawmakers reportedly signed letters pressing Qatar to use its influence on Hamas to help secure the release of hostages, underscoring a demand for action from Qatar given its ties with Hamas. So by 6 p.m. tonight, at the time of this recording in Amman, Jordan, it was confirmed that Qatar has agreed to expel Hamas leadership from its territory. That was reported by CNN at the request of the Biden administration after months of failed negotiations over a Gaza hostage deal. Other updates, these are from the International Development Association in Jerusalem, of which Churches for Middle East Peace is a part. Northern Gaza faces a severe crisis. 1,200 people have died since the Israeli additional pressure there over the past month. Many people remain trapped under the rubble. Civil defense teams are blocked from Jabalia and being able to access them. Aid access is restricted, with food and supplies frequently denied. Only one mission has reached a hospital, which was then later attacked. Basic services have been halted. Water wells, bakeries, and kitchens are non-functional. There are roughly still 75,000 to 95,000 people remaining in North Gaza. Again, our churches are there. St. Porphyrius, the Latin Catholic Church, is also there. So the remaining Christians that are in Gaza, the vast majority of them are in North Gaza. About 100,000 people have fled. It's been 4 weeks since substantial aid has reached the area. In Gaza City, the polio vaccination round risks falling short of the 95% target, which endangers Gaza and neighboring regions. And an ICCG advocacy paper outlines the key needs: food, water, medical evacuations, and the rescue efforts for trapped civilians. The World Health Organization has conducted limited and dangerous missions to the Kamal Adwan Hospital. Al-Adda and the Indonesian hospital have minimal or no capacity. And in the south, the polio campaign has been much more successful, but northern access restrictions have hampered full coverage. Food shortages in the middle area have left people starving, with rising deaths in hospitals due to supply shortages. So we do know humanitarian food deliveries have been blocked for almost a month. There are 100 kitchens in Central and South Gaza that face closures due to shortages. Kamal Adwan Hospital has been hit twice. 42 million tons of rubble pose civilian danger, and access to ordnance disposal is restricted. And the limited water samples in North Gaza have shown signs of contamination. Chlorine supplies are needed, and it's virtually impossible to get them in because of limited access. The health ministry in Gaza reported that 44 people have been killed in the past day, 81 wounded. The death toll in Gaza is now 43,552 people killed. That's a minimum number of those killed, and those wounded is at least 102,765. I wanted to give an update on the UNRWA legislation that was passed by the Knesset in Israel. The first bill bans UNRWA from Israeli-controlled areas, which impacts Jerusalem facilities and West Bank and Gaza offices. The second bill doesn't ban UNRWA in the West Bank and Gaza, but it imposes conditions that make the operation of UNRWA, for the UN refugee agency that serves Palestinians, nearly impossible to run, potentially affecting visas for international staff. The bills prohibit contact between UNRWA and Israeli authorities, so visas can't be administered. This hinders movements, checkpoint access, the transport of materials. The Knesset bills aim to reshape the peace process and challenge Resolution 194 and the right of return. Staff in East Jerusalem fear legal risks if UNRWA is outlawed completely. UNRWA remains committed to providing essential services. UN and international agency leaders affirmed that UNRWA is irreplaceable, and UNRWA's primary work centers on education, healthcare, and social development. Humanitarian aid is only a small portion of its efforts. Disruption of UNRWA's work in the West Bank would lead to instability. It provides education. It provides so many resources. Some politicians still believe other agencies could take over the role of UNRWA in health and education, but more concrete information is needed to highlight the essential role that UNRWA plays as a backbone for these services. In the West Bank, a Palestinian man was shot and killed, and 2 others were wounded as Israeli forces, accompanied by bulldozers, surrounded a house in the northern West Bank town of Al-Aqaba, according to Palestinian sources. In Israel, the Israeli Defense Forces say about 10 rockets were launched at Israel. Some were intercepted. This was midday on Saturday. They were fired from Lebanon. Our team on the ground is safe. Many people have been arriving either from Amman or from Tel Aviv. We did have a group in Tel Aviv today that had to take shelter because a siren went off in Tel Aviv. They are safe. They are now on their way to Jerusalem. I've not talked to them directly, but I talked to our team lead who said they were shaken up, which, is scary when rocket sirens go off. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers. They are now in Jerusalem. The delegation officially begins tomorrow, but please keep our travelers in your thoughts and prayers. Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon in Tyre killed at least 7 people today. 7 people killed, 46 injured. This is a coastal town in Lebanon. Israel requested that UNIFIL forces limit their movement in South Lebanon, south of the Litani River, as well as in locations in South Lebanon that are vulnerable to military attacks, according to sources. And in Syria, Israeli airstrikes targeted scientific research and defense laboratories near Al-Safira in the Aleppo countryside, according to the Syrian Ministry of Defense. They said that Israel launched an air aggression after midnight last night, southeast of Aleppo, targeting a number of sites in the countryside. They said it led to the injury of a number of soldiers and some material losses. According to Lebanese media, the attack was executed by Israeli warplanes that infiltrated the Syrian-Jordanian border, and they flew towards a Syrian base and then crossed the Syrian desert, launching missiles toward the Aleppo countryside before returning along the same route over the Syrian-Jordanian border. 1 person was killed, according to other Syrian news sources, and 6 others were wounded in the Israeli attributed airstrike. This was in a northwestern Syrian city of Sarakib. Iran's foreign ministry's spokesperson firmly rejected allegations that Iran was involved in any attempts to assassinate former and current U.S. officials. There were claims made to that effect, but Iran said that they are baseless. And Houthis in Yemen, yesterday, the Sa'ana Air Force conducted an operation targeting a military site in the Negev Desert, which is a part of Israel, emphasizing that American defense measures, including advanced air defense systems, will not deter Yemeni support for the Palestinian and Lebanese people. According to the Yemeni military source speaking to Al Akbar, a news agency, the operation had multiple objectives. First, to target a significant military base belonging to Israeli forces, and second, to test the American THAAD system, some of which are stationed in the Negev. Finally, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy and the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock yesterday, and they discussed efforts to end the war in Gaza, the need for diplomatic resolution to allow Israeli and Lebanese citizens to return to their homes. You'll recall there have been about 100,000 residents from South Lebanon and 60,000 residents from North Israel who have been displaced since October of 2023, so for more than a year from their homes. So that conversation happened yesterday. I'll head to Jerusalem tomorrow morning. Please keep all in the Middle East, including those of us traveling from Churches for Middle East Peace, in your thoughts and prayers as we continue our work and as our advocacy continues. May God go before us as we work towards peace and justice and an end to war and violence here in the Middle East. Amen.